Hi everyone, welcome back to Inner Spaces Media, where it's our goal to inspire, empower, and transform. In this video, I'm going to talk about an extremely important topic, being a parent. Having raised two children and now being a mentor for my grandchildren, I know what a challenging job parenting can be. It's a tough job, but it can be one of the most rewarding experiences you can have. Be sure to stay to the end of the video because I'm going to give you a little known secret that most parents aren't aware of. This will make parenting easier and much more enjoyable. Have you ever wondered how kids who have the same parents and the same environment can be so different? That's what I noticed about my own kids. They were as different as night and day. Their response to our parenting and the environment we exposed them to was completely different. So we knew we had to customize our parenting strategies to fit each child. And there were certain things we learned that as parents we should never do. Number one, parents should never treat siblings as if they're the same person, and neither should they compare one child to another in order to get them to behave. As I said earlier, it didn't take us long to see how different our kids were. Our son had to be outside, riding his bike, running through the woods with his friends and playing games. But the outside was like a foreign country to my daughter. She enjoyed nothing more than being in her room, drawing, playing with her toys, and watching TV. She loved her own company and never got bored with being by herself. One day when I came to pick them up from an afternoon school program, my daughter was crying. I asked what happened, and my son pointed to a girl who had told them they weren't getting cookies for a snack. My son told the girl, "Yes, I'm getting cookies." But my daughter was so hurt by what the girl said, she started crying. That was a major point of understanding for me. It let me know that each of them would respond to the world differently, and we would need to tailor our support according to their individual needs. Another thing parents should never do is hit their child. I know this is a controversial topic, one I've thought about over the years, and I have to admit, we did give our kids a few spankings back in the 70s, but it was very rare. If I were raising them now, I wouldn't use physical punishment. I had a conversation with the school psychologist, and she changed my mind about physical punishment. We were talking about ways to get kids to behave, and I made a comment about sometimes it's necessary to spank children, especially if they're insisting on endangering themselves. But she didn't agree. She asked me, "How would you feel if someone hit you?" I was surprised because I wasn't expecting such a question, but I understood where she was coming from. Of course, I answered, "No, I don't want anyone to hit me." And then she asked, "So, do you think a child wants to be hit?" That forced me to rethink my views on using physical punishment to make a child behave. Imagine how helpless children feel when they're hit. What about the mixed messages they get? On one hand, parents say, "I love you." On the other hand, when they get angry, they inflict physical pain on the child. That causes confusion and can cause a lot of psychological harm. When I was a child, spare the rod and spoil the child was the motto of almost every parent. Today, if those parents were using that kind of discipline, they probably would get arrested for child abuse. Another thing parents should never do is let children do whatever they want and not set boundaries. We know that society has rules, And children who grow up with no boundaries are going to have problems later. The juvenile centers and the prisons are full of adults who may have grown up with no boundaries and no discipline. It's ironic that children feel less love when they are not given boundaries and are able to do whatever they want. But they feel more love when the parents set boundaries because they feel like the parent cares. Sure, some kids rebel, but as they get older, a lot of them gain a better understanding of why their parents had rules. Parents should never project their dreams onto their kids and try to live through their children. This can cause a lot of resentment. My granddaughter has a beautiful voice. Since I spent so many years singing in public, I wanted her to be on stage also. Her voice is nicer than mine, and I think she has more potential. So I made plans for her to take voice lessons. I even lined up a studio. But she said, "Granny, I'm too shy to sing in public." Of course, I continued to encourage her, but eventually I was forced to realize that right now she isn't interested in singing in public. I was disappointed, but I saw that this was my dream, and I was attempting to relive through her my enjoyment of performing. There are a lot of parents who achieve great things in their careers, and they're disappointed when their children don't follow in their footsteps, or when the child may not even go to college or get what is called a good job. When parents are disappointed, depending on how they express it, it can affect the relationship and cause a lot of problems that might last for years. Another thing parents should never do is downplay the feelings of their child. They definitely shouldn't ignore their child's feelings. I remember when my kids would tell me that someone said something that hurt them or made them angry, I thought it was okay to respond by saying something like, "Oh, it's not that bad. They didn't really mean it." Or I might say, they were probably joking. Now I know that wasn't the best response. It's important to respect how children feel, even if it seems frivolous to us or if we feel as if they're exaggerating. To them, their feelings really matter. It's very tragic when kids take their lives because they're being bullied and no one takes their feelings seriously or really hear them when they're crying out. Parents should never ignore positive behavior. Do you remember how good it felt when your teacher, your coach, or your parent told you how well you did? Suppose you tried very hard and achieved something special, and the adults in your life ignored your achievement. A child who is never patted on the back, praised, or rewarded for doing well may lose the desire to achieve. So, parents should acknowledge and support not only the successes of their children, but also any effort the child puts forth. Parents should never criticize too harshly. I don't like being criticized or told what I'm doing wrong. No adult does, and a child doesn't either. Of course, there are times when criticism is necessary, but one strategy I've found to be effective is to say something positive before making a criticism. Too much criticism can make the child fear failure. They may even stop trying. If possible, weave the criticism into a positive statement so that the positive statement camouflages the criticism. In that way, the criticism won't be so painful, and the child may start being more open to your input and suggestions. It's extremely important that parents never guilt trip their children. Some parents make statements like, "After all I've done for you, this this is the treatment I get. Or they might say, other children don't treat their parents this way. The fact is, parents are supposed to take care of their children without having an agenda. They shouldn't focus on how they're sacrificing, because this causes the child to feel resentment and shame. Children are confused and hurt by being labeled ungrateful. There's also the ultimate guilt trip some parents use. They say, if you love me, you wouldn't do this, or you would do this. When children are constantly made to feel guilty, they can start believing they aren't worth much, or they feel damaged in some way. They may also not be sure if they can trust people. On the other hand, guilt tripping may cause some children to become perfectionists. They'll do anything not to make mistakes because they just don't want to deal with their parents guilt tripping them. Of course, any child who's trying to be perfect will end up very unhappy. Parents should never follow the motto, do what I say, not what I do. Kids have a natural hypocrisy antenna. They are quickly turned off when they see their parents doing something they've told them not to do. Kids don't trust parents who don't practice what they preach. They send mixed messages, and the child gets confused as to what's right and what's wrong. They start wondering, which one of these rules you're giving me should I follow? They know what's fair, and if they think they're being held to a higher standard, they won't like it. The child may lose respect for the parent, and this can lead to the child challenging the parent's authority. The child may also become detached and alienated from the parent. The last thing a parent should never do is not communicate or communicate inappropriately. Not talking or giving the silent treatment can be devastating to a child. Also, some parents don't show affection, which is a powerful form of communication. Kids don't feel loved and secure when their parents don't show them affection. Many times, they don't feel safe or protected either. Not communicating is harmful, but inappropriate communication is also harmful. For example, some parents make a habit of telling kids their problems. They act as if the child has solutions and is capable of solving their problems. But children aren't mature enough to sort out the complex issues of adults. And putting them in a position where they have to constantly hear their parents' problems can be overwhelming and very stressful. Children need to enjoy their childhood as long as possible and as much as possible. Yes, parenting is tough, and kids are going to make mistakes, but our goal is to support them and help them become independent and responsible. We want them to have a sense of right and wrong, to be able to make choices that show character and integrity. We also want them to be able to empathize and treat others with respect. When our children can do these things, we can be proud because we know we've done something right. I promise to give you a little known nugget of wisdom that will give you a parenting advantage. It helped me tremendously when I was raising my kids. It comes from a book called The Prophet, which was written by the Lebanese poet Khalil Gibran. In this amazing book, he says that even though our children come through us, they're not ours. They don't belong to us and are not our own. He says they are life's longing for itself, and they have to be given the chance to live out that longing through their own lives rather than through the life we want for them. Certainly, we should give them support, guidance, and love. and then free them to express their gift of life that was given to them and was meant for them. This advice freed me from the habit of comparing my children to other children. I stopped taking things so seriously and focused more on enjoying their brief time of childhood. It became easier to see the bigger picture and how it was unfolding in their lives. This allowed me to enjoy parenting more and be less stressed. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my channel and come back often. I think you'll be inspired and empowered. And you never know. You may hear something that will transform you. Until next time, be well, be safe, and be prosperous.